we've been wanting to talk with this man for a bit, but we didn't want to reach out until the Patriots did, in fact, come up with their next head coach, as they have announced on Monday, back here on the Rich Eisen Show from NBC Sports Boston, New England Patriots insider Tom Curran. How you doing, Tom?
Hey.
Hi, Rich. 45-7.
That's what my son said. He had a
Holy
nightmare last
crap.
night. Diehard Patriot fan Cooper Eisen said his nightmare was that the Patriots would lose Mike Vrabel's first game as Patriots coach 45-7 to the Dolphins. He even named the opponent.
I think what's really cool about this is if this one comes in, he can actually be your pathway to retirement. You just take the over and the open. Take 45-7. That's easily Dolphins and over.
You know,
What do you got?
If only there wasn't an NFL human resources department that would frown on such attempts at enriching.
You got to find a guy.
Tom.
Or just like Cooper opened one.
Find a guy.
Find a guy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Use my 13-year-old son as a gambling beard. Great idea, Tom. Sounds great. I love it. Let's just jump right into this here and start from the beginning. What went wrong with Gerard Mayo as the head coach of the Patriots, Tom?
I would start with bad roster. I would then leapfrog to the fact that that was not the timeline that the Patriots anticipated when they signed Bill to a 2-year contract in last offseason. 2023 offseason, right? And then agreed to bring Jerod Mayo back as the successor in waiting. They wanted Bill, Rich, to break the record here. They wanted to have a nice final few years where Bill breaks the record, the team returns to prominence, Mac Jones is getting carried off the field on the shoulders of everyone, and things go blissfully. That did not happen, as we know. Everything was accelerated. So Gerard ends up in a place much earlier than expected, without the ability to put together and really hone his vision and a staff to start with. So the Patriots were kind of picking scraps with coaches to a degree, and that's no disrespect to the coaches. But few of those guys would be individuals that other teams would say, man, we got to get Alex Van Pelt. As good as he did this year in different realms, no one was looking for that. So he was up against it. And then as a first-year head coach, I think his messaging could have been honed better at the podium, and he stepped in it too many times. So the team got worse as the season went on. So inexperience, bad roster, bad messaging. The Patriots are fortunate that they were able to land on somebody with some more experience, and now they have a quarterback in place for Mike Vrabel.
So before we turn the page to Vrabel, though, the messaging from Mayo, like what landed flat, not just amongst the fan base, but in the owner's suite, Tom?
Sure. I think it was the number of rakes he stepped on. Like, for instance, there was the occasion when they had that Saturday game. I'm blanking on the opponent.
Chargers.
Russ, thank you. They lose that game 40-7. Could have been 55-0. But at the start of the game, there was miscommunication between Mayo and the analyst, Russ Tucker, and you. Right?
No, it was Chris Rose.
Thank you. Sorry, buddy.
Tom, it's all good, bro. All good.
So miscommunicating things like Ramondre Stevenson isn't going to start the game because of fumbling issues. He ends up on the field after he had told the media that wouldn't happen. Well, and this is not why Jerod Mayo was let go. It's just an example of the things that were kind of going on. If you're going to tell the media, you're going to tell the local media and the radio crew that that's going on. And then Ramondre Stevenson's on the field. Well, what's going on? How can those little things be mistakes? You said it, I didn't, when he was asked by our guy Phil Perry about why Drake May wasn't being run on some 4th and short plays, was a bad message that had to be walked back. So it was that kind of messaging. He's a smart guy, a talented guy, a charismatic guy, but he was not prepared for the scrutiny he was going to face, unfortunately. So and I don't think he expected the level of angst.
Well, I mean, what about the calling the team soft? Was that
worked out? That worked out.
Right.
They played well after that. But again, the phrasing of it was something that, I talked to him later. Like, yeah, I shouldn't have said they're soft. I should have said they played soft. Yep. And again, it's a big difference. It's a massive difference to go from we're soft to we played soft, and then to have to walk it back on Monday. It just became difficult. And again, I consider him, having done television with him for 6 years, as a player, and then when he was out of the NFL, in between that and coaching, I consider the guy a friend. But we do as media members, and you experience it all the time, you have to be honest, because our job is to explain to people what we're seeing with objectivity, regardless of the relationships we built with people who are doing jobs that we cover. And he was just not ready for the level of intensity.
Well, then what caused the Kraft family to lose the patience required to maybe allow Gerard Mayo to learn on the job? And
the last 4 games.
Okay.
The last 4 games. You needed to, as the season went along, prove that a foundation had been built that you could stand steadily on and start to reach for the next tier. And in those final 4 games, they came back from a bye. They have lost to the Indianapolis Colts, I believe, just before the bye, having given up a 19-play, 80-yard drive that ended with Anthony Richardson throwing a touchdown pass and then running for a 2-point conversion. That was backbreaking enough, but you had that final 4-game stretch with Arizona, the Chargers, the Bills twice. So you could show what you had done and accomplished to improve. They got blasted by Arizona. They played well against the Bills. They got blasted by the Chargers. And the team was receding in terms of competency as it went. So that, I think, was the final straw. And probably, Rich, so we can segue to the next guy.
Yep.
I would imagine the presence of Mike Vrabel was a specter that loomed over the whole situation.
How far back does that go, Tom? And I know that might be a third rail subject, but Mike, our colleague, Tom Pelissero, every single time this subject matter comes up, does point out to the red jacket moment that Vrabel had as the head coach of the Titans on a bye week, saying about how terrific it is in New England, and that did grease a skid or two for him to lose his job in Tennessee.
Right.
So how far back does this go with New England and Vrabel to lead to Mike being the 16th head coach of the Patriots and the first since Art Shell to win a Super Bowl with a team and then come back and coach it?
Yeah, it probably goes back to 2000, Rich. The Patriots signed him as a free agent. He came over from Pittsburgh, where he was buried behind the likes of Levon Kirkland and those awesome linebackers they had. And he came here and flourished and showed himself to be one of the most tough, intelligent. Bill Belichick, I remember in 2002 saying, we look at all these, we look at every play for every player. Mike didn't make one mental mistake the entire year. And he just he raised a family here. So all of those things were, for Mike, I think, immense draws to come back. Now you look at this team and the way it's been since 2017, and we've talked about it ad infinitum on your show through those years. And when I talked about the creeping dysfunction and the way the team has, over the past 2 years, gone 8-26. And since starting 8-0 in 2019, their record is horrendous. It's not the same team. It's not the same level of unity. It's not the same all for one. It's not the same, if it ever was, Patriot way. Mike, I think, is swayed by believing it's still here or still dormant and he can resurrect it. So I think it goes back to just the affinity that you have for the people who were here, the area, the fan base, because the roster itself is not a persuasive draw.
So let's talk about first steps here. What's Vrabel bringing to the equation? Does he have front office sway, or is he just the HC and he handles the 53 on game day, and the division of labor that the Krafts wanted to institute upon Belichick's departure is still in place? Is that the way it's going to work?
It's really ironic. It's really ironic, Rich. Remember, you certainly do, from ESPN, 1997, the early days when Bill Parcells had gone to the Jets because he couldn't take the Krafts asking him to please collaborate with other people and listen to your scouting department.
Shop for the groceries. As famous statement as it can be.
So Parcells leaves and the Krafts say, you know what? How about this? How about we not have one guy in charge of everything? All these other people we're paying, let's get them to work together and maybe have somebody a little bit nicer here. Pete, Carol, you want to work here? Yeah, you can be one point of the triangle. They did it for 3 years. The team went from a Super Bowl appearance to 8-8 and getting worse. They said, you know what? That didn't work so good. Let's bring in one guy with one vision, with a good group around him, including Scott Pioli. And the Patriots rose again with Bill. And as a result, by the end, Bill had collected so much power and sway that the Kraft said again, you know what? I love this. So now they've done it for 1 year. I think with Mike, he comes in very much the way Bill came in 2000. Bill wasn't given free rein in 2000 completely. It was him. It was Scott Pioli. It was a tremendous staff around him with Romeo Crennel and Charlie Weiss, but there were a lot of smart people in the personnel department. Elliot Wolf right now is the GM. I'm prattling on too long, but Elliot Wolf is the GM without title. And he was in charge of shopping for the groceries along with his staff. They did a horrendous job. They didn't do well in the draft. They didn't do well in free agency. They miscalculated on what players could do. As Vrabel comes in, he's going to bring with him Ryan Cowden, who will soon agree, I believe, to a contract. It's reported that he's coming here. I don't think he has a contract yet signed, but once that gets executed, Elliot Wolf and Ryan Cowden, I believe, will be the 1A, 1B, but they don't want to have fights. Who has the final say? I believe if it gets to one of those things where you have three guys staring at each other and you have to go to and make a decision, Mike will say, let's do this. So that's where it will land. But again, all these collaborative front offices, whether it's McVay and Snead, the ones that do it best, they never get to a point. Eric DaCosta and John Harbaugh, they probably never get to a point where it's like two guys standing there with their arms crossed saying, it's going to be my way. Who's going to break the tie?
Right, because that's what seems like what it was over A.J. Brown with John Robinson and Vrabel in Tennessee, and now both of those guys are gone, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. He's now the new head coach of the New England Patriots, and is it any truth that he brings Josh McDaniels with him as the OC, Tom?
I felt as if McDaniels would be the front runner along with Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees has stayed in Cleveland as the OC. So that would leave McDaniels, who is local here. He and his family live, 20 minutes from the stadium still in this year off. I know that Josh has other opportunities that he's considering as this offseason goes along. And I'm sure that there's other organizations who would be interested in talking to him to be an OC for them. Because what he brings, while people maybe look at what he most recently did in Las Vegas, what he brings is a guy who, for instance, in 2018 morphed the Patriots offense from what it was in 16 and 17 when it was so brilliant to turning it into a meat and potatoes running game. He flipped it in 2020 to get 7 wins post Brady out of Cam Newton when Cam really couldn't throw overhand anymore. He morphed it again and shepherded Mac Jones to a season in which he was basically the offensive rookie of the year the entire year until Jamar Chase tracked him down. So he is very adept at doing different kinds of offenses. Now he would have a blue chip guy, a top 3 pick in Drake May, but a bad roster around it. So you have to be able to have somebody who's experienced who can craft something. So Josh, to me, makes the most sense. We should find out in fairly short order whether or not he will officially be the guy.
And you take a look at the timeline of things, Tom, and you see how when Mayo was fired, that 24 hours before it, Mike Vrabel had a meeting that, quote unquote, went very, very well with the New York Jets, talking about becoming their head coach. As a matter of fact, first head coaching interview that Vrabel took in this round was with the Jets. Does 2 + 2 equal 4 here, where the Krafts saw Vrabel chatting with Woody Johnson? It went very, very well, and then all of a sudden, Mayo gets fired and Vrabel gets hired. Is there a through line here, Tom?
I think the organization certainly was motivated. They were motivated by that. Are we going to lose out on? Mayo's struggling. We just got blasted again last week by the Chargers. Now we've won the game and we've dropped to 4th overall. Do we want to continue with what we have and let Gerard develop to an unknown level in 2025, or do we want to have someone who we trust? And it was friggin' painful, Rich, for them to move on from Mayo. You could see it on Kraft's face. Very painful for him, which is no solace, I'm sure, to Gerard. But you have to do what's good for your football team, and it is a business. And feeling bad and feelings, I think, had to ride secondarily to what they needed to do. And Mike obviously brings to the Patriots not the football stuff, but the messaging, the galvanizing, the attitude, the ability to understand and deal with the media in a particular way that would make him an ideal candidate. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. The Jets. Geez, would I stop talking so much? Anyway, yes, the Jets interview certainly prompted.
It's all good, man. I mean, really, if the Patriots needed anything, and obviously Krafts don't want to be a family that one and done's a coach. If they really needed Joe Milton to throw 2 interceptions, not 2 touchdowns, Tom. You know what I mean?
Can you believe he threw a ball 61.76 miles an hour?
Oh, I believe
Jordan
that
Love's
from him. He's talented. Joe Milton's good. He's talented.
I mean, God, that thing's fast.
I know. Listen, Tom, I appreciate the time. I know you're not feeling well. No, yeah, I mean, yeah, we've just been chatting for 20 minutes. It just time flies when you're high on NyQuil. So it's all right, good, Tom.
Listen,
you know,
don't take this idea, but I'm going to go back down and finish my coach quarterback tiers around the NFL.
Ooh.
All right, because I think now the Patriots go from very, very low,
yes,
to much higher.
Hey, listen, Vrabel and Drake May is a terrific next era to go into in New England, and every Patriot fan I know is jacked. Where should I put them in relation to Sean Payton and Bo Nix? Should be on the same tier or under them? I think I'm going to put them under them. Interesting. You're giving us ideas for later on in the month, Tom. But
yes.
Again, I'm glad you're not terribly under the weather that you couldn't make this appointed round. Tom Curran, everybody, give him a round of applause. He took a lozenge and a step and repeat, and he did his appearance here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Done.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks,
really
buddy.
appreciate it,
See
bud.
you guys. Thank you.
Everybody check out Tom Curran's Patriot Talk podcast and check him out at NBC Sports Boston, our friend Tom Curran. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.